Captain Zara Voss of the merchant vessel. Stellar Hope had been trading between star systems for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like the carnage before her. The Kepler station, once a bustling hub of interstellar commerce where dozens of species conducted business, now drifted as a broken shell in space. Hull breaches scarred its surface like wounds, and debris fields sparkled with frozen atmosphere that had explosively decompressed into the void. Her ship's sensors detected no life signs from the station's usual population of 3,000 beings. The silence on all communication frequencies felt like a tomb. Zara's four-armed Zalani navigator, Crix, operated the scanning equipment with trembling appendages, while her Torvin engineer, Bullock, monitored the engines with unusual nervousness. "Captain," Crix's voice warbled through the bridge speakers, "I'm detecting massive energy weapon signatures. The damage patterns suggest multiple attackers using weapons I don't recognize. The station's defensive grid was completely overwhelmed." Zara studied the tactical display showing the destruction. Kepler Station had been one of the most heavily defended commercial outposts in this sector, protected by both Galactic Trade Consortium security forces and its own formidable weapon systems. Whatever had attacked it possessed firepower that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. "Any survivors?" she asked, though the question felt hollow. "Scanning now," Crix replied. "Wait. I'm detecting a faint emergency beacon from Section C7. It's automated, but there might be someone alive in the emergency shelters." Zara made the decision immediately. "Bullock, bring us alongside Section C7. Prep the emergency airlocks. We're going aboard." The Stellar Hope was a small vessel with a crew of 12, designed for fast cargo runs rather than rescue operations. But Zara had built her reputation on helping others, and she wouldn't leave potential survivors to die in the darkness of space. As they approached the damaged section, their proximity sensors screamed warnings. The hull was barely holding together, held by emergency force fields that flickered dangerously. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, Zara could see the station's interior lights failing in sequence, emergency power finally giving out after what must have been hours of struggle. The boarding operation took 20 minutes. Zara led a team of 4 through the twisted corridors of Section C7, following the emergency beacon's signal through areas where artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Bodies of various species floated in the corridors: Andromedans, Centauri, even a few of the proud hegemon warrior caste who rarely left their home systems. The beacon led them to Emergency Shelter 15, where they found 12 survivors huddled in the reinforced chamber. Among them was Trade Administrator Yelp, an elderly Andromedian whose normally blue skin had turned pale gray with shock. The survivors had watched the attack through the shelter's observation ports, witnessing destruction beyond their comprehension. "They came from nowhere," Yelp gasped as Zara's medic treated him for radiation exposure. "Ships like nothing we've seen before, dark metal hulls that seem to absorb our scanner beams. They didn't respond to any communication attempts, any offers of surrender. They just destroyed everything." A Centauri female named Lixa, still shaking from trauma, added details that chilled Zara's blood. "The ships were massive, Captain. Larger than anything in the Galactic Navy. They moved with precision that suggested advanced artificial intelligence, but their weapons were designed for one purpose only: complete annihilation." As they transported the survivors back to the Stellar Hope, Zara's mind raced through possibilities. In her years of trading throughout the galaxy, she had heard rumors of ancient threats from beyond known space. Sleeping empires that might one day return to reclaim territories they had abandoned millennia ago. The Galactic Council had always dismissed such stories as primitive superstition. Once the survivors were safely aboard and receiving medical care, Zara gathered her senior crew in the small conference room. The tactical data they had collected painted a terrifying picture. The attacking force had consisted of at least 50 vessels, each one larger than a Galactic Navy battleship. The weapon's signatures suggested technology that was centuries ahead of anything currently known. Captain, her communications officer, a young human named Torres, spoke up during their discussion. I've been monitoring emergency frequencies across this entire sector. The attack on Kepler Station wasn't isolated. I'm picking up distress signals from mining colonies on Xeris Prime and Talon's Edge. The pattern suggests a coordinated assault across multiple star systems. Crix manipulated the holographic star map with his 4 arms, highlighting the affected systems. If these attacks continue at this rate, they could reach the core worlds within days. The Galactic Council needs to be warned immediately. But as they tried to contact Galactic Command, they discovered their first major problem. The attackers had destroyed all the hyperspace communication relays in the affected sectors. The Stellar Hope's own long-range communications could only reach neighboring systems, and those systems were either under attack or had gone completely silent. We need to reach a major hub, Zara decided. Somewhere with intact hyperspace relays that can get a warning to the Galactic Council and the major powers. Her chief pilot, a grizzled Torvan named Gorak, studied the navigation charts. Nearest major hub is the Proxima Junction, but that's a 3-day journey through hyperspace. If these attackers are moving as fast as the evidence suggests, we might arrive to find it already destroyed. It was Administrator Yelp who provided the crucial information that would change everything. As he recovered from his ordeal, he remembered details about the attack that his traumatized mind had initially suppressed. Captain, he said weakly from his medical bed, there was something else. Before the attack began, our sensors detected a massive energy signature from the edge of the system. Something was watching us, studying our defenses, for hours before the assault commenced. But there's more. He paused, his 3 eyes focusing with effort. Our deep space monitors recorded an energy burst just before the attack began. The signature was unlike anything in our databases, but our computer attempted a match against historical records. It found something disturbing. Yelp's hands shook as he continued. The energy signature had 73% similarity to readings taken during the Proxima incident 30 years ago. The incident that brought humanity into contact with galactic civilization for the first time. Zara felt her blood freeze. Every spacer in the galaxy knew the story of the Proxima incident. Humanity had been a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel. When they had encountered what they believed to be a hostile alien force threatening their colony on Proxima Centauri, the humans had responded with devastating effectiveness, deploying weapons and tactics that had shocked the galactic community. What most people didn't know, because it was classified at the highest levels, was that humanity had never actually identified what they had been fighting. The threat had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only energy signatures and devastated space around the Proxima system. You're suggesting, Zara said slowly, that whatever attacked Kepler Station is the same force that humanity encountered at Proxima. I'm not just suggesting it, Captain. I'm certain of it. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. If the same force that had once threatened human space was now attacking Galactic Trade Consortium territories, there was only one power in the galaxy that had successfully fought them before. We need to contact humanity, Zara stated, though the words felt strange on her lips. Humanity was known throughout the galaxy as a species to be respected and, if certain rumors were true, feared. They had joined galactic civilization 30 years ago, but they had remained somewhat isolated, maintaining their own territories and fleets while participating in trade and diplomacy. Torres looked up from his communication console with concern. Captain, humanity isn't part of the Galactic Trade Consortium's emergency response network. We don't have access to their military communication frequencies. Standard diplomatic channels would take weeks to process a request for assistance. Then we don't go through channels, Zara decided. We fly directly to human space and deliver the warning ourselves. Gorak's trunk-like nose flared with anxiety. "Captain, entering human space without proper authorization could be considered an act of aggression. The rumors about their defensive capabilities are just rumors," Zara finished, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. "But right now, they might be our only hope." The journey to human space would take them through 2 star systems, both of which showed signs of recent attacks. As the Stellar Hope entered hyperspace, trailing behind them were long-range sensor readings that painted an increasingly dire picture. The mysterious attackers weren't simply destroying random targets. They were systematically eliminating all interstellar communication capabilities and military installations, cutting the galaxy into isolated segments. During the 3-day journey, Zara studied everything her ship's database contained about humanity and the Proxima incident. The official records were sparse, but they contained enough detail to understand why humanity had gained such a formidable reputation in such a short time. When humans had first detected what they believed to be an alien threat approaching Proxima Centauri, they hadn't responded with typical diplomatic protocols or defensive positioning. Instead, they had assembled what their military called a task force, a collection of ships and weapons that had reduced the entire threat to scattered debris within hours. The energy readings from that engagement had been unlike anything the galaxy had previously recorded. Human weapons seemed to operate on principles that challenged accepted understanding of physics. More disturbing were reports that humanity had deployed these weapons without hesitation, as if the complete destruction of an enemy force was their natural and immediate response to any threat. As they approached the boundary of human space, Zara found herself wondering if she was making a terrible mistake. Was she leading her crew into danger by approaching a species known for their aggressive efficiency? Or was she their only hope of warning the galaxy about a threat that had already begun tearing civilized space apart? The answer would come soon enough. Their sensors were detecting massive energy signatures ahead, signatures that matched no known ship classifications in their databases. They were about to make contact with humanity's border patrol, and Zara could only hope that her desperate message would be received as a warning rather than a threat. As the Stellar Hope dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory, Zara's crew gathered on the bridge with nervous energy. Whatever happened next would determine not only their own fate, but possibly the fate of every civilization in the galaxy. The distress call they were about to broadcast would either bring salvation or destruction, but one way or another, humanity was about to learn that their ancient enemy had returned. The human border patrol vessels materialized around the Stellar Hope with unsettling efficiency. Captain Zara Voss had expected to encounter standard patrol ships, perhaps a destroyer or cruiser typical of most galactic powers. Instead, she found herself surrounded by 12 vessels that defied every assumption she had held about human military capabilities. The ships were sleek predators of black metal and angular lines, each one roughly the size of a galactic Navy battleship, but moving with the grace and coordination of fighters. Their hulls seemed to absorb sensor beams, making it impossible to get accurate readings on their weapons or defensive systems. Most disturbing was their silence. No identification broadcasts, no standard diplomatic queries, just the quiet presence of overwhelming force. "Captain," Torres called from the communications station, his voice tight with nervousness. "I'm receiving a transmission." Audio and visual. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a human male in what appeared to be a military uniform. His features were unremarkable by galactic standards, but his eyes held an intensity that made Zara unconsciously straighten in her captain's chair. Behind him, the bridge of his vessel hummed with activity as other humans worked at stations, displaying tactical information she couldn't fully comprehend. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," the human said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "You have entered protected space without authorization. State your business immediately." Zara had prepared for this moment during the 3-day journey, but faced with the reality of human military precision, her rehearsed words felt inadequate. Admiral Chen, I am Captain Zara Voss of the merchant vessel Stellar Hope. We carry survivors from Kepler Station and urgent intelligence about a massive attack on civilian targets throughout the Orion sector. The change in Admiral Chen's demeanor was immediate and startling. The professional mask remained, but something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. Kepler Station has been attacked. Completely destroyed, sir, along with mining colonies on Xeris Prime and Talon's Edge. We have 12 survivors aboard who witnessed the assault. The attackers used weapons and ships unlike anything in current galactic military databases. Admiral Chen leaned forward slightly, and Zara noticed other human officers on the bridge suddenly focusing their attention on the conversation. Captain Voss, you mentioned intelligence about the attackers. Do you have sensor readings from the engagement? Yes, sir. Our tactical officer compiled complete data during our rescue operation. Zara hesitated, then decided to reveal the crucial detail that had driven her to seek out humanity. Admiral, there's something else. The energy signatures from the attacking vessels show 73% similarity to readings from the Proxima incident 30 years ago. The silence that followed stretched for several seconds. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but Zara could see him exchanging glances with his officers. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. Captain Voss, I'm ordering my ships to escort you to Fortress Station. You and your crew will be debriefed immediately. Your survivors will receive full medical care. Admiral, with respect, we need to warn the Galactic Council. These attacks are spreading across multiple sectors. Every hour we delay has already been accounted for, Admiral Chen interrupted. Captain, you need to understand that your arrival here triggered protocols that have been in place for 3 decades. The moment you mentioned Proxima and those energy signatures, humanity began mobilizing for what we have always known would eventually come. As if summoned by his words, Zara's sensors detected new contacts approaching through hyperspace. What emerged from the cosmic distortion made her crew gasp in collective awe and terror. Ships began appearing one by one, then in groups, then in formations so vast that the Stellar Hope's computer systems struggled to track them all. These were not the border patrol vessels that had first intercepted them. These were warships on a scale that dwarfed anything Zara had ever seen or imagined. Massive dreadnoughts that looked like they could crack planets, surrounded by clouds of smaller vessels that still outgunned most galactic Navy capital ships. The energy readings from their weapon systems suggested firepower that could sterilize star systems. Admiral, Zara said weakly, how many ships are you deploying? This is Battle Group 7, Chen replied matter-of-factly. Approximately 1,500 vessels. Battle Groups 2, 5, and 11 are currently moving to defensive positions around key human colonies. Battle Groups 1, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 12 are preparing for deployment to the affected sectors. The mathematics hit Zara like a physical blow. Humanity was deploying over 18,000 warships, each one apparently more advanced than anything in known space. This wasn't just a military response. This was the revelation of a military capability that had been hidden from the galaxy for 3 decades. How? Was all she could manage to ask. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. Captain, 30 years ago, humanity encountered something that changed our entire civilization. We fought an enemy that possessed technology centuries beyond our own, and we won not through superior firepower, but through determination and sacrifice that cost us millions of lives. The escort formation guided the Stellar Hope toward what Admiral Chen had called Fortress Station. As they approached, Zara realized it wasn't a station in any conventional sense. It was an artificial construct the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons emplacements and surrounded by defensive platforms that could probably destroy a galactic navy fleet single-handedly. After Proxima, Chen continued, humanity made a decision. We would never again be caught unprepared. We would never again watch our colonies burn while waiting for help that might never come. We built the most powerful military force in galactic history, and we waited. Waited for what? Zara asked, though she was beginning to understand. For them to come back. During the approach to Fortress Station, Admiral Chen provided details that recontextualized everything Zara thought she knew about humanity's place in galactic civilization. The humans had indeed joined the galactic community 30 years ago, but they had never truly integrated. While other species saw them as relatively peaceful traders and diplomats, humanity had been preparing for war on a scale that no other civilization could comprehend. Their industrial capacity was staggering. Hidden shipyards and systems that appeared to contain only research stations had been producing advanced warships at rates that suggested complete automation. Their technology had advanced far beyond what they shared with other galactic powers, driven by the imperative to match and exceed whatever force they had encountered at Proxima. Most disturbing was their strategic thinking. Humanity hadn't just prepared to defend their own territory. They had prepared to take the war to wherever their enemy might be, regardless of distance or obstacles. Their ships were designed for extended campaigns in unknown regions of space, equipped with weapons that could reduce entire fleets to atoms and defenses that could withstand focused fire from multiple star systems. The entity we fought at Proxima, Admiral Chen explained as they docked with Fortress Station, didn't communicate with us in any conventional sense, but before it was destroyed, our xenobiology teams detected what appeared to be recognition signals. It knew what humanity was, as if it had encountered our species before. Our researchers concluded that this was likely a reconnaissance force, and that the main threat would return eventually. As Zara and her crew were escorted through the corridors of Fortress Station, she couldn't help but notice the scale of human military preparation. The station hummed with activity as thousands of personnel coordinated fleet movements across dozens of star systems. Holographic displays showed real-time tactical information from across the galaxy, suggesting that humanity had been monitoring galactic security far more extensively than anyone realized. The debriefing process was thorough and professional. Human military intelligence officers examined every piece of sensor data the Stellar Hope had collected, cross-referencing it against information that had apparently been classified for 3 decades. The survivors from Kepler Station were interviewed by specialists who seemed to understand exactly what questions to ask. Within hours, the human analysis had confirmed Zara's worst fears. The attacking force was indeed the same enemy that humanity had encountered at Proxima. But this time, they had returned in numbers that suggested a full-scale invasion rather than reconnaissance. The systematic nature of their attacks indicated sophisticated intelligence about galactic military capabilities and communication networks. "Captain Voss," Admiral Chen said during a private briefing, "your actions in rescuing those survivors and bringing us this intelligence may have saved civilized space from complete destruction. Without this early warning, humanity would have learned about the invasion only after our own territories came under attack." "What happens now?" Zara asked. "Now, humanity does what we've been preparing to do for 30 years, Chen replied grimly. "We go to war." The scale of human military mobilization became apparent over the following hours. Battle groups that had been dispersed throughout human space began converging on staging areas near the affected sectors. Each battle group represented more firepower than most galactic civilizations possessed in their entire navies, and humanity was deploying 12 of them simultaneously. But the most shocking revelation came when Admiral Chen showed Zara the strategic planning displays. Humanity wasn't just preparing to defend against the invaders, they were preparing to pursue them back to wherever they had come from. Human long-range exploration vessels had been mapping regions of space beyond the galactic rim for decades, searching for the enemy's origin point. "We learned something important at Proxima," Chen explained. This enemy doesn't negotiate, doesn't retreat, and doesn't show mercy. The only way to end their threat permanently is complete destruction. That's what we're prepared to deliver. As the first human battle groups departed for the affected sectors, Zara realized that she had witnessed the beginning of something that would reshape galactic history. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their military strength. They had been preparing for a war that other species couldn't even imagine. The SOS signal she had transmitted from the ruins of Kepler Station had done more than request help. It had awakened humanity's most fearsome war machine and pointed it toward an enemy that threatened every civilization in the galaxy. What happened next would determine whether galactic civilizations survived or fell to an ancient darkness that had finally returned to reclaim what it considered its rightful domain. The battle for the Zaris system began 18 hours after Captain Zara Voss completed her debriefing at Fortress Station. She had requested permission to observe the human military response, and Admiral Chen had granted it with the caveat that her ship would remain under heavy escort at a safe distance from the combat zone. What Zara witnessed would haunt galactic military tacticians for generations to come. Battle Group 7 materialized from hyperspace at the edge of the Zaris system with mathematical precision. 1,500 human vessels dropped into normal space in perfect formation, their arrival timed to the microsecond, despite traveling from different staging areas across human territory. The coordination required for such a maneuver suggested command and control capabilities that surpassed anything in galactic military doctrine. The enemy force occupying Zaris was formidable. 67 vessels of the same dark metal construction that had destroyed Kepler Station hung in formation around the system's primary mining colony. Their ships ranged from destroyer-sized scouts to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even human capital ships. Energy readings indicated weapons and defensive systems that operated on principles beyond current galactic understanding. Admiral Chen, commanding from the dreadnought Indomitable, opened communications channels that reached every ship in both fleets simultaneously. His message was broadcast in 17 different galactic languages, ensuring that any survivors in the system would understand what was about to happen. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force addressing the hostile forces currently occupying the Zaris system. You have committed acts of war against civilian targets and have violated the territorial integrity of sovereign worlds. Withdraw immediately, or face complete destruction. The enemy response came not in words, but in action. Every hostile vessel in the system opened fire simultaneously, filling the space between the fleets with energy beams that could have cracked moon-sized asteroids. The barrage that streaked toward Battle Group 7 represented enough firepower to obliterate most galactic Navy fleets several times over. The human response demonstrated why they had earned their fearsome reputation. Point defense systems aboard human vessels activated with lightning speed, creating webs of interceptor fire that neutralized incoming projectiles with surgical precision. Energy shields that hadn't appeared on any sensors suddenly blazed to life around human ships, deflecting directed energy weapons with casual efficiency. In the span of 30 seconds, an attack capable of destroying civilizations was rendered completely harmless. Then humanity began its counterattack. The first wave consisted of what human tactical doctrine classified as reconnaissance by fire. Long-range sensors throughout the system registered energy signatures unlike anything in galactic databases as human ships fired concentrated beams at selected enemy vessels. Each beam lasted less than 3 seconds, but the results were devastating. Enemy ships that had seemed invulnerable to conventional weapons simply ceased to exist, reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. "Incredible," breathed Torres from his position at the Stellar Hope's sensor station. "Captain, the human weapons are operating on principles that our physics models can't explain. The energy efficiency alone suggests technology that's centuries ahead of anything we've seen." Admiral Chen's voice cut through the tactical chatter, cold and professional. All units, enemy vessels have proven vulnerable to directed plasma fusion. Transition to offensive formation Alpha 7. Eliminate all hostile contacts. What followed could hardly be called a battle. It was systematic annihilation conducted with the precision of a scientific experiment. Human ships moved through the enemy formation like predators among prey, their weapons reaching out across impossible distances to touch enemy vessels with beams of contained stellar fire. Each shot was perfectly aimed, perfectly timed, and absolutely lethal. Enemy return fire, when it came, was absorbed by defensive systems that seemed to violate fundamental laws of energy conservation. The largest enemy dreadnought, a vessel nearly twice the size of any human ship, attempted to use its massive bulk to ram the Indomitable. Admiral Chen's response was to order what he called a focused barrage. 12 human vessels fired simultaneously at precisely calculated points along the enemy ship's hull, their weapons creating a cascading structural failure that tore the massive vessel apart from within. The entire engagement lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 67 enemy vessels had been reduced to debris clouds and expanding gas. Not a single human ship had suffered meaningful damage, and casualties were reported as 0 across the entire battle group. But the demonstration wasn't finished. As Zara watched in amazement, Admiral Chen ordered his fleet to begin what he termed system cleansing operations. Human vessels spread throughout the Xeris system using sensors far more advanced than anything in galactic databases to locate every trace of enemy presence. Hidden supply caches, automated weapon platforms, even microscopic probe devices were identified and eliminated with clinical efficiency. "Admiral," Zara called over the communication link, "what are your ships looking for?" "Evidence," Chen replied. "These entities left similar traces at Proxima 30 years ago. Devices designed to study our technology, our tactics, our capabilities. We're ensuring that none of that intelligence makes it back to their main force." The thoroughness of human operations revealed another disturbing truth about their military preparation. They weren't just fighting this enemy, they understood this enemy. Every human tactical decision seemed based on detailed knowledge of enemy capabilities and weaknesses, suggesting that the Proxima incident had provided far more intelligence than the official records indicated. As the human fleet completed its sweep of the Xeris system, Zara received a priority communication from Galactic Council headquarters. The message, transmitted through emergency hyperspace relays, contained news that chilled her to her core. Enemy forces had struck simultaneously across 17 different sectors, overwhelming local defenses and destroying key military installations with the same systematic efficiency they had shown at Kepler Station. The attacks had been coordinated across thousands of light years, suggesting command capabilities that defied conventional understanding of interstellar warfare. More disturbing were the casualty reports. Preliminary estimates suggested that over 50 million beings had been killed or were missing across the affected systems. Entire worlds had gone silent, their fate unknown, but presumed catastrophic. Admiral Chen's response to this intelligence was immediate and decisive. "Captain Voss, I'm ordering your ship to return to galactic space immediately. You need to deliver a message to the Galactic Council on humanity's behalf." "What message?" Zara asked. "That humanity is assuming responsibility for this threat. We're mobilizing our full military capacity to hunt down and destroy every enemy vessel, regardless of where they might be hiding. The Galactic Council can coordinate refugee relief and system reconstruction, but the war itself belongs to us." The implications of Chen's statement became clear as additional human forces began arriving in the Xeris system. These weren't battle groups like the one that had just annihilated the enemy force. These were specialized vessels unlike anything Zara had ever seen. Massive ships that seemed designed for extended campaigns in deep space, accompanied by support fleets that could sustain military operations for years without resupply. Most impressive were the vessels that human personnel referred to as world killers. Ships so large they had their own gravitational fields, armed with weapons that could reportedly sterilize entire star systems. The humans had built a military force capable of fighting a war across galactic distances against an enemy whose full capabilities remained unknown. "Admiral," Zara said carefully, "the Galactic Council will want to coordinate any military response. There are protocols for dealing with threats of this magnitude." Chen's laugh was humorless. "Captain, with all due respect to the Galactic Council, their combined military forces couldn't defeat what you just watched us destroy in 17 minutes. This enemy represents a threat that requires solutions beyond conventional galactic military doctrine." As the Stellar Hope prepared to depart for galactic space, Zara was given access to intelligence reports that explained humanity's confidence in their ability to handle the crisis alone. Human deep space exploration vessels had been tracking enemy movements for weeks, mapping their invasion routes and identifying staging areas in regions of space that other galactic civilizations had never explored. The enemy force currently attacking galactic civilization represented approximately 12% of their total military capacity. The remaining 88% was positioned in a region beyond the galactic rim, apparently waiting to see how their initial assault would be received. Human strategic analysis suggested that the enemy was testing current galactic defenses before committing to full-scale invasion. "They made the same mistake 30 years ago," Admiral Chen explained during Zara's final briefing. "They underestimated humanity's capacity for strategic thinking. This time, we're not going to wait for them to bring the war to us. We're taking it to them." The journey back to galactic space gave Zara time to process what she had witnessed. Humanity hadn't just hidden their military strength for 30 years. They had built a war machine specifically designed to fight an enemy that other species couldn't comprehend. Their weapons, tactics, and strategic thinking had all been shaped by the knowledge that conventional galactic military doctrine would be useless against this particular threat. When the Stellar Hope arrived at Proxima Junction, Zara found a Galactic Council emergency session already in progress. Representatives from dozens of species were debating response strategies, while refugee fleets from the affected systems brought increasingly dire reports. The mood in the council chamber changed dramatically when Zara transmitted Admiral Chen's message and the sensor recordings from the Xeris system engagement. The casual destruction of a force that had overwhelmed conventional defenses left council members struggling to comprehend humanity's true capabilities. Ambassador Kyrith of the Andromedian Republic spoke for many when he said, "We always knew humanity possessed advanced military technology, but this suggests they've been preparing for a specific threat for decades." Why wasn't this shared with the galactic community? The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Elena Vasquez, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, had maintained a low profile during her years of service. Now she stood before the assembled delegates and revealed truths that recontextualized 30 years of galactic history. "Because you wouldn't have believed us," she said simply. 30 years ago, humanity encountered an enemy that possessed technology centuries beyond anything in galactic space. We tried to warn other civilizations, but our reports were dismissed as exaggeration or propaganda designed to increase human military funding. She activated a holographic display showing classified sensor readings from the Proxima incident. The data revealed an enemy force far more advanced than anything the galaxy had previously imagined, wielding weapons that had pushed human technology to its absolute limits just to survive the encounter. "So we stopped talking and started preparing," Vasquez continued. "We built the military force necessary to fight this enemy when they returned because we knew they would return. The attacks you're witnessing now are exactly what we've been expecting for 3 decades." The council chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the implications. Humanity had been protecting galactic civilization for 30 years, maintaining a military capability that dwarfed all other forces combined while allowing other species to believe they were the dominant powers in known space. "What happens now?" asked Chancellor Theron of the Galactic Trade Consortium. "Now," Admiral Vasquez replied, "humanity does what we've always done. We defend those who cannot defend themselves, and we make sure that threats to civilized space are eliminated permanently." As reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy, the scope of the crisis became clear. The enemy had launched simultaneous attacks across over 30 star systems, using tactics and weapons that had overwhelmed every conventional defense. Billions of beings faced death or displacement as worlds fell one by one to the advancing invasion. But for the first time since the attacks began, there was hope. Humanity's true military strength was being deployed across the galaxy. Battle groups moving to intercept enemy forces with the same precision they had demonstrated at Xeris. Early reports suggested that wherever human fleets engaged the enemy, the result was the same: complete and total victory. The SOS signal that Captain Zara Voss had transmitted from the ruins of Kepler Station had indeed summoned humanity's most fearsome war fleet. But more than that, it had awakened a sleeping guardian that had been silently protecting the galaxy for 3 decades, waiting for the day when their ancient enemy would return. That day had come, and humanity was ready.